Greetings everyone, I'm Aaron Vicencio from the Department of Communication at the Ateneo de Manila University, Philippines. I'll be presenting my contributions to a interdisciplinary project done in 2019. It's titled The Buzz, Landscape, Memory, and the Challenges of Drone Videography of Marawi City After the Siege. This project was made possible through a generous grant from our university, the different departments of communication, sociology and anthropology, the fine arts, and information systems and computer science. So this is my outline for this presentation. What is Marawi City? Where is it? The timeline of events. I'll be presenting something on landscape and memory, the challenges of lens-based technologies, the challenges and perils of drone videography, and recommendations and trajectories of this project. So where is Marawi City? It is located in Lanao del Sur, Mindanao, Philippines. It is an Islamic city. It uses Sharia law, but without the physical punishments. And the people there are called the Meranao, or people of the lake. There are some key dates to remember from 2017. On May 23, the Maute group raises the black flag with the ISIS logo, and hostages are taken. On May 24, President Duterte raises martial law, and there is massive civilian displacement. 2 days later, airstrikes start, and 5 days later, 90% of Marawi City is reclaimed. On June 13, the palace confirms intelligence reports of information prior to the May 23 attack, but no action was done. On June 30, there were 2 Australian surveillance planes doing aerial coverage. And on October 16, the Maute and the Hapilon, the persons responsible for raising the black flag, were killed in a military assault. On October 17, the liberation of Marawi ended the 4-month siege. On 2018, April 1 to May 10, there was the first Kambisita, or select residents were allowed to visit their homes in the most affected area. On October 2018, there was the groundbreaking of Marawi City and the official start of the reconstruction. On February 2019, the demolition of 400 homes in the most affected area was also done. Now, my team was able to go to Marawi City from March to September of 2019. Due to the pandemic, we have not been able to come back. On July 2021, CNN Philippines released a report and some images as well. They were able to interview some select residents of the city, wherein Amendonin Kali decries that authorities are building a city not for us. They are pleasing the outsiders, but our needs do not resonate with what they want. For Hamidullah Attar, a sultan of Marawi who was also one of the displaced residents, says that it is not true that the internally displaced people or the IDPs are happy. The truth is we are suffering. The 127,000 families affected by the siege are suffering and have not recovered. These images are posted by CNN Philippines in July 2021. Professor Tirmizi Abdullah from the Institute of Peace and Development in Mindanao of Mindanao State University says that if we will not be able to return home to Marawi, then who are we? This has impact on our identity, on our culture, and we simply want to go home. Now, our project listened to these kinds of narratives, and it was posted on a website, marawi-narratives.ateneo.edu, and is currently being updated. I took most of the photographs here, and I have to be frank, when I was on the ground, I was shaking. I was not ready to see the destruction done on the city. This project is called Marawi Narratives. Other members of the group did ethnographic journalism. I headed the team for documentary photography and drone videography. We were able to create photo essays and photo stories on emotional geographies. We looked into domicide and memory. We looked into the scopic regimes of drones. We looked into the history of war, surveillance, and images. What you see here are images from Ground Zero, images from a community nearby, the evacuation sites, and a Catholic church riddled with bullets. From Judith Butler's work, Frames of War, When is Life Breathable, she says that the senses are the first target of war. It is. I also refer to Kuhn's work on memory, wherein memory work is a conscious and purposeful staging of memory. Memory work undercuts assumptions about the transparency or the authenticity of what is remembered, taking it not as truth but as evidence of a particular sort, material for interpretation, to be interrogated, to be mined for its meanings and possibilities. Currently, though, memory is being outsourced to lens based technologies. We see it through drones, cameras, video phones, and the like. It is marketed as high definition, cinematic, and in big megapixels. It is sold as higher capacity with low distortion and sharper images. But there's that disconnect of what is memory. Can memory be on demand? And should images be regarded as memory? I also become critical of the power to see, the power of verticality and visuality of drones. In photography, there's a common saying, the eye see, but the camera omits, thus creating more borders, bordering, and borderlands. There is the creation of visual frames, the othering, and political lines. Now, there is also the privileging of sight, visuals, and visions. But what of oral traditions, sounds, and the oral? What memory do we have? How do we record this? How do we listen? How do we hear? And moving forward, or moving upwards rather, towards the realization of drones, wherein drones are the latest in a series of sublime technologies to seize the public imagination. This was written by Howley in his work, Drones and Media Discourse in the Public Imagination. For me, I looked into his framework of perpetual war, domesticating drones, witnessing and resistance, with my own application of drones as weapons, the relationship between the drones and the civilian, the commercial, and the witnessing. How do the perspectives of survivors being seen or documented through drones? And how is the resistance through the work of artists or a place of artists against drones? For Howley, he sees that drones are the icon of Americans' war and capitalism because it is used in a war, but also anyone can buy a drone. Now, I'd like to focus my work on the buzz of experiences of being on ground and in flight. I was able to witness the scars of war and the comparing of drones. I heard this sentence again and again. Dapat sinabi nyo, may drone kayo. In English, you should have told us you have a drone. There was also this artisan village in Tugaya that's kept on saying no. So, when we were able to get permission to fly, we were told where to fly, how long to fly, where is it allowed. And there was also this instance of hearing the buzz of the drone to be too painful to hear. In one instance, I was with a Navy captain and he kept on mentioning about a bounty over that flying a drone over Lanao Lake. He told me that you can only fly it till that break in the lake, and after that, there's a bounty on drones. While I was flying it, I was holding my remote, and the captain was right above my shoulder watching where I was going, and he kept on prodding, go further, go after that, and go higher. But also, I was so nervous because I didn't know that imaginary boundary that he was talking about and where that bounty was going to start. In another location, there were some comparing of drones because the residents, or the evacuees rather, were so familiar with drones. They kept on asking, what channel are you working for? Why is your drone so small? Because the BBC media service had a drone this big. And they kept on asking as well, where will we see this report? We kept on telling them that this was a project between the university and the local university, and it was more of a listening project rather than a documenting project. In another location, we were asked the same thing. You should have told us you have a drone because, and we were surprised about this. They said there's a better view site up over that ridge. And then another one told me, can you send it to my Instagram? So there is that imaginary of what the drone can do and what the drone does and that what the drone can see. Afterwards, there was a member of our team who did local training on visual literacy and storytelling. And finally, in another location, there was this um, community who told us objectively and with urgency, you should have told us you have a drone before coming here. You should have gotten a barangay clearance before flying the drone. And honestly, we were able to do that. But they were just not as welcoming, and we completely understood why right after we listened to them. Because for them, the buzz of the drone, and if you ever heard a drone, it's like a buzzing of an overwhelming buzzing, like a hive of bees were in it. And because of that sound, it for the residents, we were so traumatized by that sound because for them it's the same sound of surveillance and war. Officials went out of their meeting and we stopped filming right away. We kept our cameras and listened to their plight. And it opened up a dialogue of what happened, how it happened, and how often did it happen. So beyond the flying of the drone, beyond the flying of this gadget, beyond the seeing of this flying thing, and when we stopped droning, we started to listen. My work is also informed by visual ecologies that looks into shifts, disruptions, and the unending flow of activity, how our images created, shared, and disrupts not only the images themselves, but the practice of doing so. Visual ethics also comes into my practice because it is very important to know and the ways we think, feel, behave, create, use, and interpret meaning for good or for bad. Newton says that this is how we create and use images in communicating with others and ourselves. It is visual ethics, the soul of communication, which is indescribable yet knowable aspect of meaning making, conveying, and interpreting. Visual ethics appropriate the use of imaging power in regard to self and others. Now, for the reflection that I had in creating this approach and method, I agree with Lash and Uri's call for a wider aesthetic reflexivity, which means making choices about and or innovating background assumptions and shared practices upon whose basis cognitive and normative reflection is founded. Instead of droning, flying, documenting, creating images, at first we have to listen. So in summary, Marawi is still in ruins. I found that the use of drone is only using the drone should be done only when utterly necessary and with complete consent. This God view might be unnecessary for some projects. There is a call for a sustained effort in storytelling, to hear from the ground, to hear from the locals. And there's the promise of collaboration and to not just to hear but to listen. Currently, a dialogue with Marawi City is being arranged, but due to the pandemic, it keeps getting postponed. I am now more towards listening rather than droning and using this gadget that flies and documents everything. I call for responsible and ethical practices in creating images, creating narratives, and there is that also same call to be responsible for the images that we create and share. Thank you for this opportunity, and I look forward to hearing to everyone else's presentations.